Welcome to Lesson 8 in Biblical Basics of Political Theology. Now, this might be a touch longer video. I'm going to try to keep this one as short as possible, but we're going to return to some texts we've already looked at, some topics we've already looked at, but we've got to go a little bit deeper. And so there's several threads that we need to start to weave together here. In the last two lessons, we considered the fact that man is now fallen, and there are essentially two lines, right? So we talk about who is my neighbor. There's the sons of God and the sons of the devil, as the Apostle John would call them. So two lines of people, and we asked, what is my neighbor doing? Well, there's two lines of people carrying out the cultural, creational, kingdom, dominion mandate. Right? They are subduing the earth. They are interacting with their environment, and they're creating artifacts. They are creating culture. We are, by design, culture makers. So that's what's happening. But we need to press this a little bit further. We need to understand the impact of the fall on the different spheres. And so that's what I want to look at for just a moment. And we really quickly have to go over just a touch of review. So remember, pre-fall, man had both authority and power, right? Well, authority, we're talking about authorization. Power, we speak of ability. Man always has more ability, more power than he has authorization, right? In the garden, they were not allowed to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They had the raw power to do that, but they didn't have the authorization. And this is a problem all throughout human history. In the fall, man is using his power in an unauthorized way. And we think in those terms even now. We're talking about an abuse of authority, right? That's using your power in an unauthorized way. We say, or we refute the might equals right concept. Just because you have the power doesn't mean you can do something, doesn't make it right. And so in the fall, what we see is man using his power in an unauthorized way. He's exceeding his bounds. And this continues today. And we understand it as such, both in the political realm, even in the family realm, right? So we think about those spheres without getting too tightly of a definition. When we think about the political sphere, we talk about tyranny. That's when a ruler exceeds what he's really authorized to do. Or a husband, we can say a husband is ruling like a tyrant. He's tyrannizing his home. We understand that he's misusing his power. He's exceeding his authority. And so this is important to understand, the fall and the effects of the fall on all of the spheres. And so we think about Adam and Eve, right? Adam had authority over his wife. It was a limited authority. It was limited in person. It was limited in sphere, right? So the sphere is heaven or earth, not heaven. God made the heavens and the earth, but only the earth is given to man. The sphere is also her, right? So he has the authority over her, and the authority extends to her within that family sphere, not another woman, just over her. And then there's also a scope, right? There's a carrying out the kingdom mandate. And since the tree of the knowledge of good and evil are outside of that scope, they're off limits. So when we think about spheres, and we're going to come back and define these a little better, I promise, but for now we just have to grant a few things. When we talk about spheres, the human spheres, generally speaking, have three things. They have a divine definition. So family is one man, one woman. They have a divine structure, like a hierarchy, authority structure. So the man over the woman. And then they have a divine direction or a purpose or a telos, right? So the definition of a family is a man and a woman. The structure is the man is the head of the woman. And then the direction or the purpose or telos is the carrying out of the mandate together to the glory of God. Genesis 3:16 introduces then significant problems for all of the spheres. So in Genesis 3:16, God says to the woman in the last half, your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. So sin then introduces two things into the spheres. There's a corruption in power, and there's a corruption in authority, and there's a corruption in structure. These are all, and these actually then lead even to a corruption in telos or purpose or direction. right? The families will no longer function to the glory of God. So bear this out with me. When we think about the definition here isn't really being impacted, at least not yet. But the structure is, right? Because it says in 3:16, your desire will be for your husband. So what's happening is the woman is going to want to usurp authority. So now we have a structure problem. And the man, what's he going to do? Well, it says he will rule over you. This is domineering. And so within the structure, we have a misuse of power. He's going to use his power in a way that he's unauthorized to do. He's going to become a tyrant, and she is going to usurp the authority structure. And sin's going to bring that type of corruption into every sphere. In every sphere, you're going to see corruptions of structure and corruptions in direction or telos. Things, these spheres are no longer functioning to and for the glory of God. And so without naming any of the spheres, we just know that this is how it works. It functions, or this is how it works in families today, right? We have women sometimes running the family. We have domineering husbands, and then we have families that don't glorify God. It's not only in the family sphere, but even in the family sphere, there's a corrupted telos, right, or goal or direction. Think about this. What's going on when couples decide on purpose they're not going to have kids, right? In one sense, they're not really striking at the definition yet, though they're getting close, but they are striking at the purpose or the direction of the family. What was it created for when they refused to have kids? And then we move out of the family sphere into the political realm. Think about what Jesus said in Matthew 20:25. The rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them. And so that's where sin has entered into the political sphere. And now power is used in a way in which it's not authorized to be used. They now lord it over them. But in Genesis 4, there's more corruptions. And we've already looked at this, but a lot of times with these texts, we have to keep coming back and digging deeper and deeper and deeper, because I can't give it to you all at once. So I have to bring it to you in layers. So in Genesis 4, think about what's going on. So we already talked about this. First off, Cain, commits murder. So that's a big problem. And we saw Cain's line is carrying out the mandate. Now, the telos or the direction is wrong. As they engage in all these spheres, none of it's for the glory of God. So we talk about labor and industry, that's here. We talk about the sciences, they're here. Talk about music, talking about metallurgy, urbanization, all of that. All these spheres, and they're not all spheres maybe, but everything here is now corrupted in its telos, its direction. That's all really by kind of implication, right? It's not explicitly stated, but we do see some more explicit statements as Genesis 4 goes on. So we see with Lamech, for example, in 4:19, and Lamech took for himself 2 wives. A couple observations. That Hebrew word for took, that's what Eve did. She took of the tree. It's not a coincidence that that's the same Hebrew word. And now what's happening, Lamech is corrupting the definition of family, right? It's no longer a one man and one woman. Now he's trying to do 2 women. And so he's now striking at the definition. And then not only does he strike at the definition, he also explicitly misuses the arts. So in 4:23, we see 2 things. Number one, it's a poem. And so that's the explicit misuse of the arts, because it's a poem to glorify murder. Now, not only is it a misuse of the arts, but again, he's misusing power because he confesses to having murdered somebody. And so what we see is that in every sphere where man goes into, you think about our neighbors, right? There's 2 lines. And this even happens with Christians. Let's not play the hypocrite here. Christians, we can struggle at home in our own family spheres. But particularly as we think about the unredeemed, the unregenerate, the sons of the devil, as they go out and they engage in these spheres and they create their own spheres, they are going to corrupt the definition, right? We see that. You think about today, there's redefinitions of what it means to be a family right now. And they want to argue for 2 women. Or there's a redefinition of the structure, right? Where you have the tyrant husband or the wife. You have a redefinition of the direction or the telos, right? Where families are refusing to have children. And so we're going to see that in every sphere. So we've got to bring our hamartiology, our anthropology, right, our doctrines of sin and our doctrines of man. We've got to bring these into the political arena and understanding how spheres work and what's going on with our neighbors as they're building spheres. And we start to see then that the spheres that exist that we interact with, they're corrupted not only in their definition, they're corrupted in their structure, and they're corrupted in their telos or their direction. And so that helps then to well, not yet, but it's going to help us to think about the role of the state. The civil magistrate is going to help us to think about our own role as individuals. So hopefully that's helpful.